In a world brimming with complexity, few creatures embody harmony like the honeybee. With tireless precision, she dances from bloom to bloom, each motion guided by millennia upon millennia of instinct, each act in service to the whole. And then there are the beekeepers, watchful stewards of this ancient symbiosis. Part agri-scientist, part poet, they move along their hives with the efficiency of Mo, Larry, and Curly, tending to the bees' needs as best they can comprehend, and with the infrequency of a waterfall in the Sahara, sometimes running off, flapping and flailing like a penguin on a hot sidewalk. This is their journey.
Welcome to Bee Love Beekeeping, presented by Mann Lake. Today we're headed to the U.S.'s Pacific Northwest to discuss what it's like beekeeping in that area, in that climate. With those kinds of issues, it's not all that easy, by the way. We'll discuss everything from salmon derbies to yellow jackets, beekeeping ethics, and a whole bunch more. But first, let's take 2 minutes to go inside the hive. This feature presented by Primal Bee. A colony that came through winter with maybe 10,000 bees can hit 60,000 by early summer. That kind of growth doesn't happen by accident. As days lengthen and the first pollen starts coming in, the queen ramps up laying. She might go from a few hundred eggs a day to over 1,000, close to even 2,000. The colony is bedding everything on the spring nectar flow. Here's how the math works. A worker bee takes about 21 days to develop from egg to adult. So the eggs that the queen lays in early spring won't become foragers until at least 3 weeks later. The colony has to build up its workforce before the big nectar flow hits, not during. That's why timing matters so much. Colonies that build up too slowly miss the flow. Colonies that build up too fast run out of space and swarm, taking half your bees with them. The trigger for all this is a combination of day length, temperature, and incoming resources. When the nurse bees have enough pollen to feed larvae, they signal the queen to lay more. The whole colony responds to what's happening outside. Experienced beekeepers learn to read their local conditions and anticipate when their colonies will need more space. Get it right, and you've got a strong workforce ready for the flow. Get it wrong, and you're chasing swarms. I'd like to welcome our very famous guest today. Are you famous, Brian?
No, not at all. Not even infamous. Hopefully, I'd rather be famous than infamous, but I am not famous.
Anyway, we're going to have fun today. We're up in the Pacific Northwest in the San Juan Islands having a conversation with Brian Schmitz. And good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Eric.
I know I put you on the spot with that famous one.
Well, I am the reigning salmon derby winner at the local American Legion, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I won it in 2019, and they haven't had the derby since. So, I am the reigning champion.
How do you... Okay, I promise listeners we're not going to get too far off track of beekeeping, but what is a salmon tournament and how do you win it?
Well, it was a pay entrance fee. You go out and try to catch the biggest fish over a period of a couple of days, and I caught the biggest one. So, yeah, it's...
So you out in a fishing boat trolling, that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
King salmon or what kind?
King salmon, they're the local king salmon that don't leave the area. They're called blackmouths, and that's usually you catch them in the winter. And yeah.
Well, I love fishing, so that sounds fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. My buddy coworker, he took 3rd or 5th place. We had a couple of... We both got checks at the end of the day, which was nice.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's not talk about bee hunting, but we're gonna be talking about everything beekeeping up in your neck of the woods, and let's start with the climate for a second. I know things can be very humid, very wet, a lot of rain. Give us an idea of what your whole year is like, and does it change much from summer to winter, things like that?
Yeah, we really don't have humidity like they have it, on the American East or the South. I remember the first time I stepped off a plane at, Ronald Reagan Airport. It's like, whoa, this is humidity. Yeah, we really don't have the humidity. We are in a bit of a rain shadow in the San Juan's Olympic mountain range, which I could see out the window. Blocks a lot of the weather from the south. We recently got Pineapple Express, that big Kona low that created a lot of havoc there in the Hawaiian Islands. Kind of the jet stream bent it right up and it blocked a good bit of it, but there was still some local flooding. There was some, we had some this winter as well, washed out a road to one of our popular ski hills and was a bit of a pain for the people who bought their season passes and couldn't get to the mountain easily. It's been a warmer winter. We really haven't had much of a accumulation of the snow as we've had in the past. So I'm thinking at least, that wildfire this summer could be an issue. And Vancouver and in Seattle, they get their drinking water supplies from winter melt off of, the winter or summer melt off of the winter snow. And there's not a lot of snow to fill up the reservoirs for Vancouver or Seattle. We're like 40 minutes or 40 miles from Vancouver and about 67 from downtown Seattle. We're kind of right in between the two of those. The ocean is kind of an air conditioner. It's temperate, so we generally don't have the really deep freeze or the real high temperatures, though it can get periods of it, but it does moderate it a bit. There are some outflows from the Canadian interior that come down through the Fraser River Valley, which could bring some really cold temperatures from us from interior Canada. Definitely fixed frozen pipes more than once in my house. So, yeah, we're pretty moderate as far as temperatures go.
Is it moderate enough, warm enough that your bees are out flying all winter?
No, it definitely isn't. It gets into the higher 40s. They'll start flying then. I like little darker bees, and but they definitely cluster up and go broodless. The bees I have that definitely do have a brood break during the winter.
That helps. So you have a real live winter, you're just not under 3 feet of snow.
I can be.
Oh, really?
Can
Okay.
Yes, and we live on a hill about 1,200 feet of elevation, and I have a old Land Cruiser with lockers in the axles and stuff. I get up and down the snow while the neighbors are parking, and
That makes a difference.
it does. It does. Love my old Land Cruiser.
So, Brian, how long have you been beekeeping?
I've been beekeeping since 2020. Started right during the pandemic. Started seeing if I could make my own bread, and it's like, oh, got pretty good at doing the old sourdough. Think I'd be Taylor Swift that trend, but then it's like, no, I wonder if I can make sugar, and that's why I started keeping bees. I thought about it for a while. I used to pick berries when I was a kid, raspberries and blueberries, and you'd see colonies that hadn't been picked up yet. The school kids were picking berries during the summer type of thing, and I always kind of had interest in it. Yeah.
Well, congratulations, because a lot of people picked up new hobbies, as you know, during the pandemic, including beekeeping.
Yeah.
And some of them still are, a lot aren't. So
Yeah.
good job keeping it up. You've obviously learned a lot, figured it out. You were telling me you run 30 colonies roughly?
Yeah. Yeah. The end of last summer, going into the fall, I had 33. Yeah. Like to get back up there. We've had some losses and
Langstroth style hives?
Langstroth deeps for now, but in different size boxes, a nuke box, 5 or 6 frame. Michael Palmer, brood factory type of deals. Those about 5 of those.
And you use smaller honey supers as well?
Oh, yeah, I everything's 10 frame medium, and I probably have close to 30 drawn out supers when I harvest. We have such a short season. I don't want to have my bees to have to draw comb to be able to harvest honey every year to draw a new comb. Just takes so much of their resources and whatnot to do that. So I just, I'll cut off the cappings and spin them out and make sure they get cleaned up and store them away nice and safe. and never have brood in them. So
And about when do you harvest every year?
the county fair is in early August. I'll do a couple of harvests. I'll do stuff for the fair right away. As soon as I see some cap brains, I'll just steal those out and do a quick extraction of that. And then I'll put those back in the colony and then harvest in August or first part of September.
And by the way, thanks for sending the picture with your blue ribbon and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a blue ribbon and a best in class too. So yeah, not just a salmon derby winner.
Well, congrats. Yeah, you're the winner on everything.
Things work out for me, it seems.
As we were chatting the other day, you had mentioned that you've got some pests that are part of the reason why all your bees don't make it through winter. Should we jump into that?
Sure, yeah. I live in the woods, right next to this huge state park, probably one of the nicest state parks in the state, Moran State Park, named after the former mayor of Seattle, built battleship USS Nebraska, and it was killing them. And doctor said, "You got a few months to live, bud." And he said, "Well, it's good. I'm just gonna go up to Orcas and live the rest of my days up there." And he ended up living for another 40 years. The islands are just kind of a magical place. I don't know if it's officially a blue zone. There's some evidence that it might be a blue zone where people tend to live a longer life. Yeah, we live next to this forest, and the forest, there's a lot of native bees, including yellow jackets, and they could be rather pesky. And I've lost strong hives and not just weak hives too. I've lost a couple of big booming double deep colonies with really reduced entrances, and they're still having a heck of a time fighting off yellow jackets. It's a little crazy.
Let's talk yellow jackets for a few minutes because it's our number one pest here as well.
Yeah.
When I was fairly new at beekeeping and lost my first hive to yellow jackets, I was told, well, if it was a strong, healthy hive, yellow jackets wouldn't be able to kill it. Well, you and I have both witnessed that is not always the case. And it is, well, man, it's a horrible, horrible thing to watch because you can go out there and it looks kind of like robbing, and you look closer and you just see these yellow jackets taking the bees apart. And the guard bees come out and they try to do their deal, and it's not a fair fight. Yellow jacket can just take them out. Now, everybody is going to find something different that works for them. I'm going to tell you what works for me, and then I want to hear some of the things that work for you. Now, I know there's all kinds of great robber screens that you can buy that make it harder for any kinds of flying predators to get inside a hive. With where I particularly am, the yellow jackets hit right around the 1st of September. So I know just before then is the time to prepare. And I use an entrance reducer, but it's not a regular wooden one. I take hardware cloth that's fine enough that bees and yellow jackets can't get through it. I run that across the front of the entrance, and I leave an opening that's only about an inch. And that's it. Now, the reason I use hardware cloth is because it's still really hot. And so whether it's that or some other kind of screen, the bees definitely need the airflow. I can't just put a wooden entrance reducer in. Now, with a strong hive, in my experience, they can win that battle with that small of an entrance. How about you? You mentioned entrance reducer wasn't even enough. So tell me what happened.
They just overwhelmed the colonies. And I do have a bunch of the white robber screens. I won't mention any product names or whatnot. But I've had some success with that, but sometimes it's just it doesn't matter. I don't know if there's a pheromone that is given off, or maybe they bred the aggressiveness out of the bees where they're just more susceptible to that, because there's some bees that are right next to the ones that are having problems that, may not even be as strong, and they don't have any issues. So
Did you notice that those other bees were a little bit hotter and the ones that were killed were maybe a little friendlier to people, that is?
after I've foretell the hives of my colony, I'll make a video diary type of a thing so I could look at it later. And I'm not a very good note taker, but I just find using my video camera on my phone. It's great. And I'll mention that this colony's hot and that colony was hot at, a certain time.
I admit a pet peeve of mine is that it seems all beehives are white. Yeah, boring old white. And just when I get a pet peeve, Mann Lake comes to the rescue with their new color collection. The vibrant new line of colorful beekeeping hive kits designed to turn your backyard into a buzzing work of art. Each kit comes completely assembled, ready to add to your bee yard, but with a big splash of personality. We're talking dandelion yellow, garden green, coneflower blue, and even bold wild rose pink. Because who says a beehive has to be plain old boring white? Imagine stepping into your bee yard and seeing a rainbow of thriving hives, each one buzzing with life, producing golden homegrown honey. And right now, Mann Lake is offering podcast listeners 10% off color collection hive kits. Visit manlakeltd.com and use the code SHOWMETHECOLOR at checkout. That's manlakeltd.com, discount code SHOWMETHECOLOR. Temperature management isn't just a winter problem. In summer, your bees work overtime keeping brood cool. Primal Bee's insulated hives buffer against temperature swings year-round. Less extreme highs, less extreme lows, less work for your bees. If you want to give Primal Beehives a try, I've arranged a special 10% discount just for Bee Love listeners. Click on over to primalbee.com/BeeLove and use discount code BeeLove at checkout. That's primalbee.com/BeeLove, and be sure to use BeeLove at checkout.
And it seems like the ones that I made that notation are doing great. So it's anecdotal, but I think I'm going to be running some hotter bees here in the future and maybe use those queens for grafting here.
Makes sense. And then the other thing that a lot of us do, and you may be too close to the woods, but we try to control all of the yellow jackets that we can.
Yeah.
I mean, I just barely put some traps out to try to get the queens. We're in the spring right now of 2026, so I do that, and then in the summer, I've got yellow jacket traps up all over the place, including around the beehive. Some people says maybe it attracts them closer to the hives. I'll put them like 10 feet away from a handful of hives. And, I'm going to mention a whole bunch of things, and I don't know which ones work the best. I think a combination of things help. I have also put up those paper things that look like a paper wasp hive. Have you seen those?
No, I have not.
You can just get them on Amazon for a couple of bucks. They're really cheap, and they look almost like a paper lantern or something. And so they're maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 inches high and 6 inches wide or something. And they look like a paper wasp nest. I'm told that hornets don't like paper wasps. So I will also put those out in the apiary by beehives, maybe hanging from a tree 10 feet away or something. Again, I have no idea how much that is helping, but I'm doing all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely see some things online with different traps and the commercially available ones. I have some of those, and definitely going to try the, chicken suspended over a pool of soapy water upside down.
There's a bunch of things like that on YouTube that people can look up. I just figure the more hornets I'm taking out of the atmosphere, the better.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to find their nests because yellow jackets nest in the ground. And if you're in an area like me, I mean, I'm around acres and acres of nothing. And so it's just really, really hard to find them. I do every once in a blue moon, once every couple of years, I'll find one and take it out.
Yeah. I found one last year right by my house, right by my foundation, and gave him a little dawn and water and took that one out. Still had a plague around the hives. It was crazy.
Well, and you can get 5,000 plus, right? of yellow jackets in a little underground hive like that, or nest, whatever they call them. Anyway, the chicken thing, if nobody has seen this before, let's try to describe it. I haven't done it yet. It looks like you've seen it. I've seen it. And you take a bin, a big plastic bin or bucket or whatever that's that's nearly full of water. You take a piece of wood, hang it over that, and you staple, tie, whatever, some raw chicken on the bottom side of that wood, just a little bit above the water, so that the hornets fly in. They munch, munch, take some big chunks out of the chicken. They drop slightly before they can start flying out. That's when they hit the water. And of course, you've put a little dish soap in the water, right? So that they can't easily get back off of it. They drown quickly because you've broken the tension in the water. And I've seen people catch thousands of yellow jackets that way.
Yeah, it looked like a good way to go, to be honest.
Pick your favorite way. Hey, this is just me. We love all pollinators, but there's some that are hurting our favorite pollinators, and so I don't mind getting rid of some of those.
Yeah, my wife loves hiking in the woods, and every once in a while comes a little too close to a ground nesting yellow jacket, and we'll we'll find I hear about it. So yeah, I don't mind doing something with those for sure.
Yeah, yeah. They don't belong on this planet, in my opinion. Okay, you didn't hear that from me.
Well, we have some gooseberries that are really like them. That they're a little too early for the honeybees usually.
Well, and by the way, those yellow jackets that some people call bees that don't know the difference, they're the ones ruining your picnic as well.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I definitely got a swarm call for some honeybees in a wood pile last year. It's like, you send me a picture before I go to another island to pick up these free honeybees. Yeah.
So speaking of islands, so you're on an island. Do you take a ferry to get everywhere?
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have, there's no stoplights on any of the islands. When we go to the mainland Anacortes, it feels like we call it going to America just because our whole little kind of peaceful bubble out here. Yeah.
And when you started with bees, did you buy your bees from somewhere on the mainland and then ship them over with you? Or are there beekeepers on your island you were able to buy them from?
Getting started, I just found a person who was bringing packages up from California, and I went down to the Seattle area and picked them up. And of course, it was during COVID, so they'd bring them out to your car, put them in the back, and you drove off. There wasn't much, getting out and talking and whatever. It was just, here are your bees, see ya. But yeah, and I've also gone down and picked up packages from people too in my earlier days. So the thing with the packages, we don't have small hive beetles on our island. I know they're in the neighboring county. Bree Price is our local extension person there in Washington State, mentions that. Yeah, they are in Skagit County. I have sold some newts to people on the island just so we don't accidentally get small hive beetles on the island, or for now, and probably AAA lapse, in the future would be something to good reason not to import these to the island.
You're not allowed to say the T word on this show.
No, geez, okay, put me in timeout.
No, we're just avoiding that topic as long as we can.
Yeah, well, yeah, but forewarned is, oh, I forget the saying. Anyway, if you know about it, you can do things to try to prevent it.
Yes, I'm being facetious, obviously, but there's so much hard stuff to talk about already with varroa and other pests. Glad you don't also have small hive beetles. That's one less.
Yeah, it's another layer of the onion to peel back with what, beekeeping is. It seems like you learn something new and you peel a layer of the onion. You think you're getting closer to the center of it, but now there's more layers there. That's why it's so interesting.
Again, as we were chatting the other day, you mentioned something you called beekeeping ethics. Would you explain what that is?
Beekeeping's local, right? The way you keep your bees is the way you feel, because you have certain beliefs and whatever. I like to treat my bees. So I want to protect our local native pollinators. We have lots of bumbles and mining bees and even yellow jackets. But, I don't want to create a mite bomb for these other bees or whatever, or hurt the environment. I'm definitely want to actively manage my bees. So in a responsible manner, of which to me is what I feel is responsible. It's personal, right? I feel like I need to be a beekeeper instead of a bee haver. And to paraphrase Greek philosophers, an unexamined hive is not worth keeping. Was that Plato or Socrates? I think they both may have said it in different times. But anyway, yeah, it's just important to me. I see some people use, well, actually, that sounds like a tap. This might sound like a tack, but the double bubble is like in place of an inner cover, and it's that plastic with the bubble insulation. And you see some of their videos and they peel it off, and it's like, oh, there's a flake of plastic. I think I just saw fall down in their hive. And microplastics, that's something you hear quite a bit about being in our bloodstream and whatever. And I don't know. It's just something that I'm not going to do. And that's just one of the ethical choices that is important to me, not necessarily important to other people.
And I like the term that you used a minute ago, which was responsibility or responsible beekeeping, because let's talk swarming for a second.
Sure.
I know lots of people that are into beekeeping just as naturally as possible, and they let their bees swarm, and that's great until it shows up at your neighbor's house and they're not so happy about it.
Yeah,
It takes common sense.
it
If
does.
you want to let them swarm, great, but let's somehow make sure they're not bothering your neighbors.
Yeah.
And the same with Varroa, and the same with spraying all kinds of pesticides and herbicides all over everything. What we're doing affects other people too. So I'm glad you're looking at that and trying to be responsible.
Yeah. And, making sure they have a water source that they like better than the neighbor's dog's water bowl or whenever I had one of those issues here a few years ago. Yeah. You don't want to upset the apple cart.
Part of what's fun with this show is just meeting beekeepers from all over the place, all over the world, and you're in a unique area. What other kinds of things have you learned that you might be able to share with other people in a situation similar to yours?
I don't know. I feel like our situation is pretty unique from our isolation. And the fact that there are some beekeepers on our island, but there aren't a ton of them. It's fairly unique. We don't have traditional row crops, and we don't have to worry about the spraying things. We do have some, I do have actually an organic apple orchard very close to me, a few hundred trees.
I don't know how big your island is, but if I were moving to your island,
Yeah.
maybe 3 or 4 miles away from you, and I was already a beekeeper, but I'm like, I'm used to keeping bees in the mountains and in the desert. What advice would you have for me there?
Well, there's the universal stuff. It's like, when was your last mite count? How many you find, that kind of thing. I I like to do the condensing hive, which basically insulate a roof. I do wrap the outside. Get a lot of winds here, gale force winds, small craft advisories, that kind of thing. Winds over 50 knots. I feel like the slatted racks help a little bit with the wind hitting, getting up into the brood cones a lot. It was something I adopted earlier on in my beekeeping career. Oxalic acid vaporization is a real popular treatment. The first one everybody gets is the one you plug into the deep cycle battery, and it has a tray. And I felt like I burned some cones at one point, so it's like, maybe I'll throw a slatted rack on there. And there's definitely other benefits too, besides a little protection from rudimentary OAV applicators. There's more room that the cones get drawn out better if you don't have a slatted rack on there. And I have my 5-frame equipment or whatever. The bottom of the cones near the entrance doesn't get drawn out so well, and you have to pull them up and flip them. And whenever you do that, disturb the brood nest, it sets the bees back a bit. So I do like them for that reason as well. Gives them a little more room, a little more time to catch them before they fly off into a tree as well.
Do you have a chance to catch many swarms where you are?
Yeah. Last year I caught 4, not from my own colonies. 3 of those was from somebody who overfed their bees, and just they backfilled the brood nest and they just went to the trees. And it was like 3 after swarms, and then another one was a colony over on a different island. Just started drawing comb outside in this apple tree. I do catch a good bit of swarms. Yeah, I always put the swarm traps and wherever I have an apiary set up. I feel like it's a responsible thing to do. Landing in the neighbor's bush, an elderberry bush, is much nicer for the person whose bush it is than versus, I found a dead spot in the house where there isn't any insulation, and how you're doing a cutout and cutting down their house to retrieve some bees. But yeah, I think swarm traps are very important for that.
You seem like somebody that would have a really fun, wild, and crazy beekeeping story. Will you share one with us?
Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. So, are you familiar with the movie Greyhound there with Tom Hanks, World War II?
Sorry, I have not seen it.
Okay, all right. So Tom Hanks is the captain of a destroyer protecting a convoy in World War II, and there's a German wolf pack that are set out to destroy the protection of the convoy and the convoy itself. So it's this very intense movie. At the end of it, they fled the convoy. Other ships from the English mainland have come and took over for them, and they're going into port to get patched up because they suffered some damage or whatever. Tom Hanks goes to his second in command. It's like, you have the con. That deck officer takes over and commands the ship and brings them into harbor and whatnot, goes off. And that's the end of the picture. My job is similar. I'm second command of a captain, merchant mariner. I'm in charge of a navigational watch. And we listen to different things like air traffic control. We have vessel traffic control. We have a radio for that. We have a different radio for making pilot hours, passing arrangements. And also in the corner, sometimes we'll have a radio on. We'll listen to classic rock or whatever. And every once in a while, it'll be during a Bee Club Zoom meeting. And I'll have that going on, at a level where we could hear all of our other radios, but we could still pay attention to that. Anyway, so this one Bee Club meeting, just listening to it, the guest came on, very respectable Randy Oliver. Good stuff for the beekeeping community. I think that's indisputable. He came on and with the Zoom meeting, and he wanted everybody in the meeting to see their face. And I'm in a darkened pilot house. It's at night. Brian, I want you to turn on your camera so I can see your face. And it's like, no, I can't do that. It's like, Brian, and he wouldn't let it go. And I just, obviously couldn't destroy my night vision by looking at the thing and turning on the light so he could see my face. So I just had to reach over and just turn off the volume. And I don't know. Hopefully he did it. Ask for me to keep doing it for a long time, but I don't know. I just turned the volume down because that's kind of what I had to do. And I just felt I still feel embarrassed about it. It's just like getting caught out by Randy Oliver. It's just not something you want to do as a beekeeper, right? Oh my gosh. But that was my embarrassing moment.
Your embarrassing moment didn't even have any honeybees in it. It wasn't getting stung in a weird place or anything else.
No, but it was just getting called out by Randy Oliver and disappointing him. I just felt so small, but it's what I had to do.
Someone like Randy Oliver probably has the authority to take your beekeeper merit badge away.
I'm a Boy Scout, but I guess I'm a bad Boy Scout.
I don't know.
Probably not the first one.
All right, last question, and you're welcome to think about it for a minute. And that is, I can tell that you just really love the bees and really enjoy spending time with them. What is it about it that you love?
It just it forces you to be present, to take a deep breath and be calm when you're working your bees. You don't want to squish them, see what's going on, and react. It's kind of similar to my job. Not all the things you see out the window you need to react to immediately. Some you could just monitor, right, and see what happens. But other times there's things where you just gotta act and make a change. I find it really peaceful. I guess that's one of the pitches for the Hives for Heroes thing, to help people who've faced some adversity and whatever, and just kind of help manage your mental health a bit, And I find that it does makes me calm.
I like that. Calm is a good thing, and you're in a beautiful, beautiful place. I'm gonna have to get up there one of these days.
If you do, feel free to look me up. Anybody who comes up to Orcas, right in the middle of two World Cup venues in Vancouver and Seattle, going to have lots of people in the area. If there's any beekeepers who want to go through a hive, drop me an email at islandbeesupply@gmail.com and you'll poke around.
All right. I want to go salmon fishing too.
Okay, all right. July. It's a short season these days. They haven't been running too many tournaments, but I've seen orca whales out there feeding. The southern residents were out here just last week and saw those. Actually saw a gray whale last week too. That's pretty crazy.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Brian.
All right. Take care. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again for joining us on Bee Love Beekeeping, presented by Mann Lake. Another big thank you goes to Vita Bee Health for their support. Vita's Varroa control range of products includes Apistan, Epigard, and now Varoxan, extended release oxalic acid strips. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to and follow the show, tell your friends about it, and click on over to BeLoveBeekeeping.com to sign up for our free newsletter. If you have a guest suggestion or topic you'd like discussed on the show, shoot me an email, eric@belovebeekeeping.com. And remember, if you're not just in it for the honey or the money, you're in it for the love. See you next week.